Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are getting into a really core area of Indian law. It sort of sits right at that intersection of tradition, finance, and, well, criminal justice.
It really does.
We're talking about the absolute property rights of women, and specifically trying to clarify that critical difference between Stridhan and dowry.
Which is a huge point of confusion.
It is. I think you've probably come to us wondering why two terms that sound so similar, both involve property changing hands around a marriage, are treated so differently.
Right. One is a protected right, the other is a serious crime.
Exactly. And in legal reality, that difference is, it's massive.
It is. And our mission today is to give you a really clear, usable understanding of this. We've gone through the foundational acts, the Dowry Prohibition Act, the Hindu Succession Act, and all the key rulings.
All the source material.
Right. We need to clarify the core legal distinction. Dowry is coercion, Stridhan is affection, full stop. And understanding the robust, modern legal status of Stridhan, it just shows what a strong safety net it provides for a woman's financial independence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with those fundamental definitions, because the legal intent here seems to be, well, everything.
It's the entire case.
So when most people talk about dowry, they're really talking about something that falls under Section 2 of the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961. The law defines it as, any property or valuable security given in connection with the marriage.
But that's not the whole story.
Not at all. Here is the critical part, the part that actually determines if it's legal or not. Dowry is property that is exchanged because of an unlawful demand.
A compulsion.
A compulsion, exactly. If the transfer is forced, it's criminal.
And you contrast that immediately with Stridhan. Literally, it just means woman's property.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Its defining characteristic is absolute ownership. The sources are crystal clear on this. The woman is the exclusive owner, and she has complete power to, sell it, gift it, use it however she wants.
Without asking anyone.
Without asking permission from her husband, her in-laws, anyone. It's hers.
What's so fascinating here is how the law focuses almost entirely on the state of mind of the people involved. It's not about the object, it's about the why.
Yes, it is all about intent. Stridhan is, by its very nature, voluntary. It comes from affection, from goodwill, maybe from her own job.
Her own labor.
And it's intended for her financial security. Dowry, on the other hand, is coercive. It's a demand. Often it's a precondition for the marriage to even happen.
Right.
And it's meant to benefit the groom or his family. So this isn't really about property. It's about criminal extortion that's just, happening under the guise of a wedding.
That distinction based on intent, that's where the line has to get blurry in practice, right? This leads to what some lawyers call disguised dowry. You see these cases where huge gifts are transferred, and they're all recorded meticulously as voluntary gifts, but everybody in that room knows they were given under duress.
That's right. And the court knows this happens. It doesn't just accept the label on the box. If the husband or in-laws harassed the woman or her family or made a demand.
Even a subtle one.
Even a subtle one. If the property transfer was clearly tied to the marriage going forward, the court is obligated to look past the paperwork. It has to determine the real intent. If coercion came before the transfer, it's dowry.
So wait, even if the husband has a neat signed receipt that says gift from my father-in-law, the court can just disregard that piece of paper if the circumstances prove it was coercive.
They have to. But it's hard.
It sounds incredibly difficult to litigate.
It is. It relies so heavily on witness testimony, on circumstantial evidence to prove that coercion existed. That's why documenting the lack of compulsion is almost as important as documenting the item itself.
Okay, let's shift to Stridhan itself. If it's absolute property, what does that actually include? I think we all assume it's just the jewelry she wears on the wedding day.
It's so much broader than that. Stridhan covers basically everything she receives for her exclusive ownership, acquired at any point in her life, before, during, or even years after the marriage.
Okay, so we're talking a really comprehensive list. Obviously, gifts from relatives, parents, in-laws, the husband, things like jewelry, cash, clothes.
Right.
But what's often overlooked, I think, are her self-acquisitions. Property she bought with her own money from her own skill or labor, her salary.
Her investments, her savings, all of it.
Yeah.
Also, property she gets through inheritance, assuming it's legally hers, and even arrears of maintenance payments.
So the key concept is that the asset is intended for her exclusive control.
That phrase is everything. Intended for her exclusive control. That's also how we define what is not Stridhan.
Oh, okay.
So property that is given specifically for, say, common family use is usually excluded.
Like what? A refrigerator.
A refrigerator is a perfect example. Or a television or a big piece of furniture meant for the living room. The intent there was for shared utility, for the marital home.
I see.
You contrast that with personal jewelry or money put into our personal bank account. Those are unambiguously hers.
So jointly owned property is out too.
Correct. And, of course, anything extorted under threat is criminal dowry, even though legally the assets are still hers to claim back.
You know, I'm curious about the history here. This idea of a woman's protected property.
Yeah.
It isn't new, is it?
Not at all. It's ancient. The idea goes back thousands of years in Hindu legal texts where property was categorized based on where it came from. You had gifts from the mother, gifts given at the ceremony.
Wow.
It just confirms that the concept of assets gifted out of pure affection has always been seen as separate from assets taken by force.
And that historical context leads us right to the golden rule of statutory protection. This is where modern law really steps in and turns this ancient idea into an ironclad legal shield.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the legal status of Stridhan today is incredibly strong because of a concept called fiduciary duty.
Okay, explain that.
The Supreme Court established this principle. It says that when a wife hands over her Stridhan to her husband or in-laws, maybe for safekeeping in a locker or for him to manage, they don't become the owners, they become trustees.
Custodians.
Custodians, exactly. It's like loaning your car to a friend. They can use it, but they have to give you back that exact car when you ask for it.
So they're just property managers for her assets.
Precisely. They have a strict fiduciary duty to protect it and return it on demand. And if they fail to do that, it's not just a civil disagreement, it's a serious criminal matter.
How serious?
It constitutes criminal breach of trust, which is investigated under the Indian Penal Code.
That custodial role is massive. So what happens if, say, the husband sells the wife's gold jewelry to pay off a business debt? Maybe he thinks he can replace it later.
He's in serious trouble.
He risks criminal charges for that.
Absolutely. By selling it without her consent, he has breached that trust. He has misappropriated property held in a custodial capacity. Even if he replaces it later, the criminal liability for the breach itself remains.
Wow.
The law is very clear on this. Even if a husband used Stridhan in a time of genuine distress, like a family illness, he has a moral and legal obligation to restore that property or its current value to his wife.
That's a game changer for financial security. But to really appreciate how strong this is now, we have to look back at that huge historical shift, the end of women's estate.
Right. Before 1956, property owned by a woman was often split into two types. You had Stridhan, which was absolute, but then you had this other thing, women's estate.
What was that?
Think of it like being a temporary property manager for life. She could use the property, enjoy the income from it, but she was a limited owner. She couldn't just sell it.
She couldn't.
No, not without proving a legal necessity. And when she died, it didn't go to her heirs. It went to the next male heir of the person she got it from.
So before 1956, she didn't really own it. She was just renting it for her lifetime from the family. That's a huge restriction.
A massive restriction. But the landmark law that shattered this was the Hindu Succession Act of 1956, the HSA.
Okay.
Section 14 of the HSA is foundational. It said very clearly that any property possessed by a female Hindu, whether she got it before or after the act, shall be held by her as a full owner, not a limited owner.
So it just wiped out the whole concept of women's estate.
Instantly. It converted all existing women's estate into absolute Stridhan. It basically handed over the full legal deed to her, cementing her position as the undisputed owner of her own assets.
That is the moment. The birth of the modern statutory framework for these absolute property rights.
That's the one.
Okay, let's get practical. If a woman is in the middle of a conflict, a separation, and her demand to get her Stridhan back is refused, how does she actually translate that legal right into recovered property?
There are three main legal avenues, and they often work best when you use them together, leveraging both criminal and civil pressure. First, you have the most powerful one, the criminal complaint route. This means pursuing that charge of criminal breach of trust against the husband and his relatives. This is serious because it carries the threat of jail time.
What are the other options? Maybe less adversarial ones.
Well, second is the civil suit. Under the Hindu Marriage Act, during divorce proceedings, you can ask the court to rule on the property that was given at the time of marriage. The family court can just order them to return the items.
The third.
The third is an application under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, the DV Act. Under that act, a court can issue a specific order for the return of Stridhan as part of the relief for what's called economic abuse.
This all hinges on one thing, though. Proof. If you're claiming these items are your Stridhan, how on earth do you prove it in court? The sources all seem to scream that documentation is essential.
It is the Achilles heel of so many cases.
Yeah.
The court can only protect what you can prove belongs to you. You have to go from an emotional claim, my mother gave me this necklace, to a factual one. Here is the itemized list, here is the witness signature, and here is the receipt showing who paid for it.
So the evidence needs to be super specific.
Extremely. A complete, detailed, itemized list of every single thing. The wheat, the description, who gave it, that's mandatory. But for high-value items, gold, cars, cash, you need proof of acquisition.
The original receipt.
Original receipts or invoices. For cash, the best proof is a bank transfer record, a check, an NFT. Something that traces the source and proves it was voluntary. That's what protects it from being called dowry.
So let's say the wife's cousin bought her a gold chain and there's no official receipt. Is that just gone? Or can a witness still save the day?
A witness can definitely corroborate the claim, but it carries much less weight than a document, especially for something expensive. A defense lawyer will hammer away at the lack of a paper trail.
I can imagine.
The court prefers proof of source because it removes the ambiguity around intent. If her father paid for the gold via a traceable bank transfer, the intent of affection is so much clearer than a big, unexplained cash purchase.
And we had to give the counterpoint here. The law aims for fairness. So what about misusing these claims? What are the risks if someone submits false bills or makes up evidence?
Because these claims often go along with serious criminal charges, courts take fabricating evidence very, very seriously. If a claimant submits fake documents or lies in their testimony, they face action for perjury.
And the penalties are?
They're severe. We're talking potential jail time for lying under oath or for dishonestly making false claims in court.
So for anyone involved, claimant or defendant, it's really all about meticulous preparation.
Absolutely. Proactive measures are key. Keep dated, signed records of all gifts. If you're defending against a false claim, the strategy is to expose the contradictions. Demand to see those original receipts.
Right.
If they can't produce proof of purchase for a high-value item they're claiming is their Stridhan, the credibility of their entire list is significantly undermined.
This has been an incredibly enlightening deep dive. Well, let's do a quick summary of the absolute takeaways. 1. Stridhan is not dowry. Dowry is criminal compulsion. Stridhan is a woman's protected absolute property right that comes from affection or her own work.
2. That protection became legally non-negotiable because of the Hindu Succession Act of 1956, specifically Section 14(1), which turned all those old, limited property rights into full, absolute ownership.
And 3. When Stridhan is entrusted to the husband or in-laws, they are not owners, they are custodians. They have a fiduciary duty, and failing to return it is a serious offense, criminal breach of trust.
You know, the legal journey of Stridhan really has created a powerful statutory safety net. It secures financial independence for women, especially when a marriage breaks down. This framework makes sure that personal wealth, whether from a gift or from a job, remains completely protected.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to explore on your own. While modern law has provided this amazing framework for absolute ownership, and it has crystal clear penalties for breach of trust, the critical, ongoing legal battle often hinges entirely on one subjective thing. Can you definitively prove the intent? Was that transfer of property a voluntary gift of affection, or was it the result of a coercive, unlawful demand? That subtle, crucial line between affection and coercion is what makes meticulous documentation so paramount. It's what turns a legal right into a proven reality.